My girlfriend looked me straight in the eye and said, "This isn't up for discussion. He's been part of my life longer than you have. Either he stays or we're done." Prepare yourself, because what I'm about to tell you, it still feels like a fever dream even to me. The night I got ambushed at my own engagement dinner, my fiancé, the woman I loved, slid a legal contract across the table. It demanded her ex-boyfriend be a permanent, legally binding fixture in our marriage, and what came next was a calculated betrayal I never saw coming. Candlelight flickered off polished silverware, painting warm halos around expectant faces. The low hum of conversation, punctuated by gentle laughter, filled the air, a perfect symphony of impending happiness. I sat there, brimming with naive joy, completely oblivious to the cold, hard betrayal waiting just beneath the surface. Let me back up a bit. This didn't happen overnight, you know? The signs were there, simmering beneath the surface, but I was so blind. My name's Alex. I'm 33, a civil engineer here in Austin. I build bridges, plan roads. Basically, I make sure things don't fall apart. It's a good, solid job. I've got my own condo, my truck's paid off, and I was saving for a house, dreaming of a backyard, a dog. Stability, you know? That's what I craved. And I genuinely believed I'd found it with Chloe. Turns out I didn't know her at all. Not even close. I met Chloe 2 years ago at a charity gala. One of those fancy events where everyone's a bit stiff, pretending to care about the cause. She was vibrant, though, running a booth for an art education nonprofit. She cracked a joke about the rubber chicken, and I actually laughed, a rare feat for me at those things. We talked for hours. She was smart, engaged, asked real questions about my work. Most women I'd dated just glazed over when I talked about drainage calculations. Chloe seemed genuinely curious. Or at least, she was a damn good actress. She worked as a brand consultant, building this curated, slightly unreal Instagram world of intentional living. I didn't quite get the influencer thing, honestly, but I respected her hustle. She told me she grew up with nothing, put herself through college. That drive, that grit, it drew me in. I appreciate people who make things happen. Our first date was coffee, then dinner, then hiking. Before I knew it, we were inseparable. She just fit. She had a way of making you feel like you were the most interesting person in the room. Remembered details, seemed fascinated by my boring technical stuff. When you're falling in love, you want to believe it's real, right? You want to believe this time is different. We dated for about 18 months. Good months, honestly. Skiing in Colorado, eating too many beignets in New Orleans. She clicked with my family. My mom adored her. We talked constantly about the future, kids, our dream home, everything. Chloe always said she wanted stability, a solid foundation. She told me stories about her chaotic childhood, parents divorcing, never knowing where she'd sleep. I told her I wanted the opposite. One partner, one life, building something that would last. She cried, said that's exactly what she wanted too. I believed her. That was my mistake. The proposal was at Enchanted Rock, as the sun set. It was perfect, beautiful. I pulled out the ring I'd saved 6 months for, $8,000. She said yes, cried, and I felt like everything was finally falling into place. Then there were her parents. Her dad, Richard, a retired family law attorney. Very polished, very opinionated on progressive approaches to modern relationships. Her mom, Eleanor, ran this lifestyle blog about evolved partnerships, filled with words like intentional, authentic, and container for growth. I thought their approach was a bit intense, but hey, every family has quirks. Mine argues about football. Hers discussed emotional frameworks. Different strokes, right?
Wrong.
So wrong. The engagement dinner was Richard's idea. A fancy restaurant downtown, both families present. My parents flew in, my brother Mark and his wife Jessica drove down. Chloe's parents, her aunt, her cousin. A dozen people, white linens, too many forks. Everything started normal. My mom and Eleanor talking venues. My dad and Richard discussing investments. Chloe showing her cousin dress photos. I felt grateful. Surrounded by loved ones, celebrating a future with the woman I loved. Life doesn't give you many moments like that. Then, halfway through dinner, Chloe reached into her bag. She pulled out this glossy, professionally bound packet. Embossed cover. The title, in elegant script, read, Family of Choice Agreement. My first thought? Gag gift. A joke. But the room went dead silent. Not confused quiet. Expectant quiet. And Chloe? She was looking at me with this dead serious intensity. No warmth. I wanted to present this in a meaningful setting, she said, her voice unnervingly calm, with everyone we love present. Because this is about our family. All of our family. I opened it, and my blood ran cold. Clauses about her ex-boyfriend, Spencer, remaining a permanent family member after we married. He was required to be invited to all holidays, birthdays, major life events. A section designating him as a creative advisor for our wedding brand campaign. Our wedding brand campaign? I didn't even know we had one. 12 pages. Single-spaced. Detailed provisions about communication schedules between Chloe and Spencer. Creative input rights for anything related to our public image. Something called emotional infrastructure maintenance, requiring regular check-ins between all three of us. A clause about Spencer being present for major life milestones, anniversaries, career achievements, the births of any children we might have. Vacation coordination, making sure Spencer had the opportunity to join us for at least 2 major trips a year. A whole page about social media posting guidelines, how Spencer needed to be credited, how he had approval rights over photos that included him. I looked up. The restaurant felt like it was underwater. Muffled sounds. Time slowed. My parents looked like ghosts. My mom's hand frozen halfway to her glass. My dad staring at his plate, rigid. Mark and Jessica exchanged glances, utterly shocked. But on the other side, Richard was nodding approvingly. Eleanor was beaming. That's when Chloe delivered the line that ended everything. This is non-negotiable, she said, looking me right in the eye, without blinking. Spencer's been in my life longer than you have. He's been part of my creative journey since college. He stays or we end this here. Silence. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. My dad gripped his napkin, knuckles white. Mark looked like he wanted to jump up and deck someone. I didn't say anything for 30 seconds. Just sat there, processing. My fiancé. At our engagement dinner. In front of both our families. Handing me a legally formatted document. Requiring me to accept her ex-boyfriend as a permanent fixture in our marriage, our home, around our future children. The ultimatum hung in the air. Spencer stays or we're done. I looked at the packet one last time. Flipped a few pages. Saw Spencer's full legal name on multiple clauses. Saw Richard's name at the bottom as the document preparer. This was planned, organized, executed, with precision. Then I folded it, placed it next to my plate, and said one word. Understood. I stood up, straightened my jacket, thanked everyone for dinner, told them I appreciated them being there, told my parents I'd call them in the morning. Then I walked out. No yelling, no arguing, no begging her to reconsider, no asking for explanations. I just left. Because when someone hands you a contract like that at your engagement dinner, they're not planning a marriage. They're planning a merger. And I don't do mergers. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Replaying it. Was I missing context? Was this some elaborate test?
No.
She literally handed me a bound document requiring me to accept her ex as a permanent family member. This wasn't a miscommunication. It was a declaration. When I got to my condo, I sat in my truck for another 10 minutes. Then I pulled out my phone, took photos of every single page of that packet. Front, back, every clause, time-stamped documentation. Then I forwarded everything to my friend Sarah, a corporate attorney. Subject line. You're going to want to read this. 6 minutes later, she called. What did I just read? She said, her voice incredulous. We're documenting everything. Don't delete anything. Don't respond to anyone. That night, I went through our shared accounts, revoked Chloe's credit card access, removed her from the wedding registry, changed passwords. Then I forwarded the entire packet to my parents with one line. I'm done pretending she respects me. My dad called at midnight. Proud of you, son. Get some sleep. That was it. That was enough. But wait, it gets worse. The next morning, an email from Richard. Subject: Addendum to prenup draft. Another legal document. This one made the first look like a children's book. It listed Spencer as a godparent advisor for all future family branding and child-raising decisions. Family branding for kids who didn't even exist yet? Provisions about Spencer having input on educational choices, naming decisions, a requirement that he be present for first birthdays, first days of school, graduations. Ongoing creative collaboration rights regarding any content featuring the children. I stared at that screen for 10 minutes. This wasn't just about maintaining a friendship. This was a detailed legal framework for inserting a third person into every single aspect of my hypothetical family's life. I called Sarah. This isn't love anymore, I told her, my voice shaking with a mix of disbelief and simmering rage. It's strategy. She told me to send her everything, and not to respond to anyone. This is going to get worse before it gets better, she warned. So, honestly, am I insane here? Was walking out the right move? Because Chloe started absolutely blowing up my phone. 43 texts in the first 12 hours. First apologetic. I'm sorry the timing was off. Can we talk? Then confused. Why won't you respond? Then angry. You're being childish. We can work through this if you just communicate. Eleanor posted something on her blog. When partners fear your freedom. No names, but everyone knew it was me. A controlling fiancé who couldn't handle evolved love. My friends sent me screenshots. Richard sent a formal email requesting a reconciliation meeting, CCing Eleanor and Chloe, like this was a business negotiation, not the end of a relationship. I haven't responded to any of it. What do you even say? I kept going back to that moment. Spencer stays or we're done. Who gives their partner an ultimatum like that at an engagement dinner, with a printed contract? Maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I thought marriage meant choosing each other first. Not signing legal documents to preserve your relationship with your ex. Update 1 *. Alright, everyone. Things have gotten significantly more complicated. Sarah, my attorney friend, has been incredible. She immediately started digging because something felt off from a legal perspective. Turns out her instincts were dead on. Here's what we found. Eleanor, Chloe's mom, was the sole signer on every single wedding vendor contract. The venue, catering, florist, string quartet, custom lighting, DJ, every single thing. Total value across all contracts, $145,000. None of it in my name. None of it needed my approval. None of it was discussed with me beyond me picking chicken or fish. And get this. Spencer's photography company had already been paid $80,500 for creative direction on our wedding visuals. Our wedding that hadn't even happened. His company invoiced for brand narrative development, visual identity consultation, couple positioning strategy, and legacy documentation framework. Sarah had to explain what half of that even meant. They were treating our wedding like a product launch. The good news? I had zero legal liability for any of it. Every contract tied back to Eleanor. Sarah said it was like they were planning a business event, not a wedding. The structure was designed to make me feel obligated, invested, but never actually legally responsible. Clever, in a twisted, disturbing way. Then there was the credit card situation. Remember I revoked Chloe's access? Sarah had me pull complete statements first. Over $60,200 in charges over the past 4 months that violated our agreement. Our deal was simple. Joint wedding expenses over $500 had to be discussed and approved by both of us. We even texted back and forth about it. She had a supplementary card specifically for wedding expenses. Instead, spa weekends at fancy resorts in Sedona. Big Sur. $3,000 here, $4,000 there. Designer dress rentals from LA and Dallas. And this one, a wedding mood board studio session that Spencer billed directly to my card for $4,200. She'd been using my credit card to fund her content creation. The spa trips were for Instagram posts about pre-wedding self-care journeys. The dress rentals were for try-on videos. The mood board session was literally a photo shoot where Spencer photographed her surrounded by wedding inspiration images. None of it for our wedding. all for her content, funded by my credit card. I disputed all the charges, and the bank froze the card. Chloe was not happy. Her texts went from furious to apoplectic. "You're ruining my business," she wrote at 2 a.m. "My sponsors need consistent content. This is how I make money.
Do you not understand that?"
I didn't respond. But here's where it gets really interesting. Eleanor published that blog post, "When Partners Fear Your Freedom,"
Clearly about me.
describing a rigid traditional man who couldn't handle his fiancée's expansive approach to love and connection. The comments were brutal, calling me controlling, insecure, afraid of strong women. Someone actually wrote I probably had narcissistic personality disorder, and Chloe was lucky to have escaped me. Me, the guy who just got ambushed with a contract about his ex at his engagement dinner. The very next day, my company's HR department received an anonymous email. It questioned my emotional stability, suggested I was having a mental health crisis, and might pose a risk to colleagues. It recommended they monitor my behavior closely and consider if I should be working on critical infrastructure projects. Someone tried to sabotage my career because I wouldn't sign their contract. Fortunately, my friend Miguel works in our IT department. He heads cybersecurity. He traced the IP address. It led directly back to Eleanor's home office. She literally tried to end my career. I submitted everything to HR. The ultimatum document, the prenup addendum, screenshots of the blog post, the complete timeline. They investigated, interviewed me, reviewed it all. Dismissed the complaint as clearly malicious. My supervisor pulled me aside, told me to take whatever time I needed, said it wouldn't affect my standing. Good people have your back when it matters. Then something completely unexpected happened. A woman named Michelle reached out to me privately through Instagram. She was Chloe's college roommate, still did some styling for her. She'd been at the engagement dinner, actually sitting quietly at the end of the table. Michelle sent a message. "I need to show you something. Can we meet somewhere private?" We met at a coffee shop. She was nervous, jumpy. Her eyes darted around like she was afraid of being seen. Then she handed me her phone. Text message screenshots. Between Chloe, Eleanor, and Spencer. From the week before our dinner. They were literally planning to stage that ultimatum conversation. The whole thing was rehearsed. How to frame it, what words to use, how to position the packet, when to slide it, what expressions to have. One message from Eleanor read, "If he backs out after this, we can position him as regressive and controlling. His walkout becomes our proof that traditional men can't handle evolved love. Either way, we win. The narrative works in our favor." Another from Spencer. "The key is making him feel like he's the one being unreasonable. Traditional men hate looking closed-minded in public. Social pressure will push him to comply." And from Chloe, "He'll sign. He's too invested to walk away now. He spent $8,000 on the ring. He's not throwing that away over some paperwork." She genuinely believed I was too committed to leave, that the money I'd spent would trap me. She miscalculated. Sarah's response when I showed her the screenshots? "Perfect. That's premeditation. They plan this deliberately to manipulate you. Keep this sealed until we need it." I realized it right then, sitting there, reading those messages. I wasn't Chloe's fiancé. I was their target demographic. The stable, successful, traditional guy who would give their narrative legitimacy. They needed someone like me to make their evolved relationship concept seem mainstream. Without me, they were just people with weird ideas. With me on board, reluctantly accepting their progressive framework, they were pioneers challenging outdated norms. The most recent development? Eleanor is threatening to sue me for emotional distress over my public walkout from the restaurant. Sarah just laughed. "Let her try," she said. "She's already made your defense airtight with that blog post and the HR sabotage attempt. My parents have been amazing through all this. My dad. Son, you dodged a bullet. Don't look back. My mom just keeps asking if I'm eating enough. Normal family support. I'll keep you posted. Apparently, this isn't over yet. Update 2 *. I cannot believe I'm back here again. This situation just keeps escalating in ways I never could have predicted. Thank you to everyone who's been following and offering support. The messages mean more than you know. Richard arranged what he called a neutral family meeting at a community center. Both families attended. Sarah came as my advocate because Chloe's side was clearly operating as a unit, a unified front. I figured this was where we'd work out a peaceful separation and move on. I was so wrong. The meeting started civil enough. Everyone on opposite sides of a long conference table.
Coffee.
Water. Warren did most of the talking for their side, laying out the path forward. He spoke in that measured attorney voice, like he was presenting to a judge. Then Chloe opened with her compromise. Spencer could step back from family holidays. He wouldn't come to Christmas or Thanksgiving, but he needed to retain creative authority over her public image as a family brand. He would still have input on any content related to our relationship. He'd still be consulted on major life decisions that affected the brand. He'd still be present for milestone documentation. She said this like it was a generous concession, like she was doing me a favor by only letting her ex control how our hypothetical family was presented to the world. "This is me meeting you halfway," she said. "This is me compromising for us." I had prepared for this. Dana helped me put together a presentation, and I brought a projector. When Chloe finished her speech, I asked if I could share some information. Richard looked annoyed, but agreed, probably thinking I was going to make some emotional appeal, beg for her back. Instead, I showed them the text messages Michelle had given me, the ones proving they planned the whole dinner stunt in advance. I put them on the screen, one after another, with timestamps. The coordination. The message about positioning me as regressive. The one about social pressure pushing me to comply. The one about me being too invested to walk away. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. The air crackled with their stunned realization. Then I showed them the invoices. The $80,500 Spencer's company had already been paid from wedding funds for services not yet rendered. The brand narrative development, the couple positioning strategy, the legacy documentation framework. Services for a wedding that would never happen. Then I showed them my bank statements. Misuse of my credit card. $60,000 in charges for spa trips and photo shoots and studio sessions. None for our wedding. Then I showed them the prenup addendum, listing Spencer as a godparent advisor for future children. Richard's composure completely broke. This calm, polished attorney started raising his voice. He said the family wouldn't tolerate defamation, that I was twisting innocent documents, that I was proving exactly why I wasn't evolved enough to be part of their family, that my presentation was a violation of trust and good faith. Sarah leaned forward, very quietly, but with an iron edge. She said, "Defamation requires falsehood. We have receipts. Every document Alex has shown is authenticated. Every screenshot is timestamped. Every invoice has a paper trail. If you'd like to dispute any of this on the record, I'd be happy to schedule a deposition." Richard stopped talking. His mouth opened and closed silently. That's when Eleanor started crying. She launched into a speech about how they just wanted to create a new model for modern love, how I was destroying something beautiful because I was threatened by their emotional evolution. My mom, who had been quiet the entire meeting, her face a mask of controlled fury, finally spoke up. Her voice was steady and cold, cutting through Eleanor's sobs. "Your daughter asked my son to sign a contract letting another man help raise his children. At his engagement dinner. In front of everyone. And you think he's the problem?" Nobody had a response for that. The meeting ended with no resolution. Both families left angry, but their anger felt hollow. My parents hugged me in the parking lot. My dad said, "You're doing the right thing. Stay the course." But here's where this story takes a turn I never saw coming. Michelle reached out again a few days later with something that changed everything. She'd found a pitch deck on Spencer's computer. He'd left his laptop open at Chloe's apartment, and Michelle saw the document on his desktop, the Modern Family brand, turning love into legacy.
It was a complete business plan.
For monetizing my marriage to Chloe. The pitch deck laid out projected revenue streams, lifestyle sponsorships, brands paying to be associated with their evolved family model, weekend retreats teaching couples, expanded family structures, corporate workshops. There was a section about a book deal Eleanor was shopping to publishers. Working title, Chosen Family, A Mother's Guide to Evolved Love. My wedding was going to be the centerpiece case study. Projections for a podcast network. 3 different shows. Even merchandising. Clothing lines, home goods, a subscription box. One slide actually said, target demographic, men aged 30 to 45 who value stability but feel constrained by traditional relationship models. Our male anchor provides aspirational representation for this demographic. Male anchor. That's what I was to them. My marriage was supposed to generate $2.1 million a year for them. I was never her fiancé. I was their target demographic, their male anchor, their case study. Sarah reviewed the pitch deck. You have 2 options, she told me, her voice grim. Option 1, expose this publicly. Create a viral scandal that destroys their careers. Option 2, stay quiet, finish the bank dispute, and let them collapse under their own contradictions. I chose silence. As tempting as public revenge was, the thought of more drama, more public spectacle, made me sick. I told Sarah, let the truth rot them from the inside. I just need to be free. The consequences started rolling in. Khloé lost 2 major brand partnerships. Her sponsor relations manager got concerned about brand safety issues after she couldn't deliver content during the credit card investigation. Spencer's photography studio lost 3 major clients after screenshots of his co-parent brand pitch somehow made their way to potential customers. Eleanor shut down her blog for a personal break after receiving multiple complaints about mixing personal drama with advice content. 3 weeks after our family meeting, Richard sent me a draft lawsuit through his personal attorney. Claims, public humiliation, and breach of emotional contract. Yes, emotional contract. Apparently, that's a thing now. Sarah's response was a cease and desist along with an anti-slap counterwarning for attempted defamation. She delivered a complete, chronological timeline of events to Richard's attorney. The dinner stunt, the blog post, the credit card misuse, the HR sabotage attempt, the business pitch deck. Everything documented. Time-stamped. Sarah's message to me that night. Don't blink. The endgame is ours. I've started sleeping better. Bought some plants for my condo. Started hiking on weekends again. Amazing how much energy you get back when you stop pretending someone respects you. More updates to come. Final update *. Well, everyone, this is probably my last update. Thank you to everyone who followed along, who offered advice, and just listened. This journey has been wild. The mediation process was brutal. 3 hours in a sterile conference room with both families, 2 attorneys, and a court-appointed mediator. Richard tried to paint me as an unstable partner who couldn't handle evolved love concepts. Eleanor talked about how their family had been traumatized by my public rejection. Their narrative was polished, theatrical. Then Sarah presented the business pitch deck. On the conference room screen, the room went dead silent. You could actually watch Richard realize his daughter had been planning to monetize her marriage, his own, entire family's involvement. His face went through about 6 different emotions in 30 seconds. Confusion, recognition, anger, shame, calculation, defeat. Eleanor stopped talking about emotional evolution and started talking about misunderstandings. The mediator, a woman with tired but sharp eyes, asked Khloé directly, Ms. Miller, did you intend to build a business around your marriage without your partner's knowledge or consent? She didn't answer. Just looked at Spencer like she expected him to rescue her. He sat there, staring at his hands. Not a word. My mom, who had been quiet the entire mediation, her presence a silent, steely judgment, finally spoke up. You people plan to turn my son's wedding into a brand deal, she said, her voice steady and cold, devoid of any warmth. And you have the audacity to claim emotional distress? The mediator called a 15-minute break after that, sensing the room was about to explode. The settlement took 2 weeks to finalize. I agreed to drop my credit card dispute on 2 borderline charges, about $2,400. It was a concession, a small price for peace. In exchange, Eleanor and Richard accepted full financial liability for all wedding contracts. A binding non-disparagement clause, preventing any of them from discussing me publicly, ever. Khloé signed a 5-year, legally enforceable no-contact agreement. Spencer signed a cease and desist preventing him from using my name or likeness in any business materials, including that pitch deck. Everything sealed. Everything irreversible. My freedom was worth every penny. Now, here's what happened to each of them. Chloe tried to rebrand as a relationship coach on Instagram, posted about healing after heartbreak and finding yourself after loss. She lost most of her major sponsors within 2 months. Her book deal fell through after the publisher got wind of the controversy. Last week, I heard through mutual friends that she's back living with her parents while she reassesses her brand strategy. Her follower count dropped from 85,000 to 31,000 in 4 months. Engagement is dead. The algorithm stopped pushing her content. Her carefully curated life fell apart. Eleanor's blog got hit with an ethics complaint from her professional association. Someone reported she was mixing personal family promotion with advice content, potentially exploiting relationships. She shut down the blog permanently. Then last month, I found out she lost her certification renewal. She's not practicing anymore. Her evolved partnerships philosophy didn't survive contact with actual scrutiny, crumbling under the weight of its own hypocrisy. Richard tried to file that lawsuit for emotional distress. Dana counterfiled with everything we had: the HR sabotage attempt, the premeditated text messages, the business pitch deck. All of it in one fat binder delivered to his attorney's office. 3 weeks later, his own attorney dropped him as a client. Apparently, even other lawyers thought his case was embarrassing. He's been telling people the whole thing was a social experiment gone wrong. Nobody's buying it. His colleagues at the Bar Association have been notably distant at events. His reputation, once so pristine, is now tainted. Spencer relocated to Denver. His photography business took a hit, but he was rebuilding. That part bothered me, a little, that he might escape this somewhat unscathed. But then 2 months ago, Michelle sent me a screenshot. His new girlfriend found out about the pitch deck. Someone had forwarded it to her. She posted about it on her own social media, tagged him, called him a relationship grifter who tried to monetize another man's marriage. That post got 12,000 shares. His Denver rebrand isn't going as smoothly as he'd hoped. It seems some things just follow you. As for me, my company promoted me to senior project lead 3 months after the mediation concluded. The affordable housing development I've been working on broke ground last month. 200 units of sustainable, mixed-income housing. My name's on the project plaque. Real work. Real impact. Something that actually helps people instead of farming their lives for content. So, here's my final question for you all as I close this chapter of my life. What would you have done if your engagement dinner turned into a legal ambush for someone else's brand deal? Seriously, I need to know. Drop your thoughts, your reactions, your wildest advice in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one.